Now, former Lagos State Governor in southwest of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, a senator in the early 90s and a governor on Nigeria's return to democracy. Tinubu has always been around Nigeria's democratic story, having been identified as a foremost political player in the emergence of past Nigerian leaders. Tinubu decided to vie for the country's biggest political office in 2023. His candidacy has divided opinions amongst Nigerians as his personality is seen in different lights. Tinubu is considered one of the leading candidates for the 2023 presidential election in Nigeria, as is popular and is running under the ruling party. He, however, faces foremost opposition in Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party, Peter Obi of the Labour Party, and Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso of the New Nigeria People's Party. Dele Alake, Director of Strategic Communications, Tinubu Shettima Presidential Campaign Organization, joins me now. Good to see you, Dele Alake, and I'm excited seeing you because let's start first because it's been a while, and is it me looking like you or you looking like me? But
it's you looking like me because I'm older than you. So it's you looking like me.
I wanted to break the ice. Well, anyway, good to see you. It's always good to speak with journalists. I just spoke with Adeni Kuno, who's also a journalist, and you're also a journalist. Let's start from you. I'd like to take a shot at your personal experience. I recall in 1999, you were amongst the very first set of people who worked with Bola Tinubu as Commissioner for Information. But when you got into that office, you added another word to it, another office, Minister of Information and Strategy. Let's start from there because it looks like almost every state in Nigeria is now turning into such a ministry. Why Information and Strategy?
Thank you very much for having me, Sulai. That your takeoff note actually speaks to the qualification, the primus inter pares position of Bola Ahmed Tinubu in the scheme of things in the contention for the presidency. Now, in 1999, prior to 1999, all information apparatus of all government ministries, agencies, government at all levels, local, state, federal. The nomenclature was Ministry of Information, Youth, Sports, Culture, and all that, appendages. But Bola Ahmed Tinubu, because of his trailblazing tendencies, capacities, and capabilities, among many firsts, created the Ministry of Information and Strategy. And I became the first Information and Strategy Commissioner in the history of Nigeria, in the annals of administrative arrangement, operations of Nigeria. And the reason is not far-fetched, because there was a lot of thought and work that went into it. Don't forget, again, as one of his many trailblazing tendencies, he was the very first governor-elect in the history of Nigeria to set up a transition council when he became governor-elect to fashion out programs, policies for him. And that transition council developed a blueprint which remains till tomorrow the philosophical ground norm of the developmental strides of Lagos State. Now, one of the recommendations of that transition council, the transition council now in turn created 23 subcommittees covering all gamut of administration, all areas of governance, health, education, works, environment, infrastructure, you name it, including information. And I happen to have been made the chairman of the Information, Youth and Sports Committee of the Transition Council at that time. So it was in that committee and in that council that we came up with the idea, and I will tell you why. Now, the idea was that prior to to 99, we had military regime, 13 years of unbroken military interregnum. Now, by the very nature of the military, Sulai, I don't know if you served under the military. We served under the military. I practiced journalism under the military. I was editor under the military. So the military or militocracy, as was practiced then, was authoritarianism. It was a dictatorship. There was no freedom of speech or association or anything. So there was no parliament. So the military did not, by their nature, require the consensus or the consent of the public before rolling out their decrees or edicts or their laws and regulations. You either conformed, or you are thrown into detention, or harassed, or maimed, or dealt with in any way. So, because of that, the emphasis on information by previous administrations was very low, because they didn't need the consent of the public. They didn't need to carry the public along in aggregating views and opinions, even to formulate policies, to enunciate, conceptualize, execute, and monitor policies. They didn't need the public. So there was no emphasis on information gathering and communication. Communication, as you know, is a two-way process. You have passed on the information must be received, it must be assimilated, and a feedback must be given. That is when communication is complete. So the military, by its nature, didn't know it. So we now felt that coming onto the civilian environment, a civil democracy, there will be need, by the word, the definition of democracy, you know what it is. It is participatory. The rulers with the ruled.
I know if I allow you go on, Trojan, because I'm looking forward to the day we'll have a sit down, because for those who do not know, Dele, I worked with Dele, and away from the program, I'll clearly say he was my boss. You have a lot of story to say, and that was why I referred to you as an activist. We all knew what you did during the military back then. But again, now let's dig in deep. You're here speaking for your principal and friend, Bola Tinubu. You know, there have been a lot of things about the man, Bola Tinubu. I'll get back to the meetings and, strategies that are being done. But do you think Bola Tinubu is being misunderstood by Nigerians?
I will say it's being misunderstood only by one or two categories of Nigerians, not by Nigerians in general. There are Nigerians who have a sense of history. They do not misconstrue Bola Tinubu because they were aware of what he did. They were aware and still are aware of the transformational leadership that he gave and he continues to give. So they don't misconstrue him. Now, there are those who could innocently misconstrue, and those are the very young ones who probably were not around 23, 25 years ago or 23 years ago, when he held sway in Lagos State, when he implemented all of these transformational initiatives and policies. So they may be very, very green. Then the third category, the second category of those who could misconstrue him is a category of those who deliberately adopt selective amnesia because of envy. And I keep saying this thing, because of envy. Because the envy demands achievements, his lofty heights, what he has been able to do or demonstrably, perform, exhibit in terms of ideas, in terms of vision, in terms of knowledge, in terms of capacity, in terms of courage. He has been able to demonstrate all of these attributes of leadership. And naturally, like sugar attracts ants, success attracts envy, especially in our own environment, in Nigeria, in Africa. It does. So those are the two categories of people that I would say misconstrue or can misconstrue Asiwaju. But for the rest of Nigerians who have a sense of history, who are very honest, who are, thorough, meticulous in their analysis, who subject things to critical analysis. They do not misconstrue him at all. In fact, they admire him and they commend his giant strides. And today, where he ruled, all the other candidates, at least the very prominent ones, whether Atiku, Obi, Kwankwaso, the ones that you've mentioned, all of them have been in public office. There's none of them whose record of performance, antecedents in office.
Let me jump in here. That's Dele, a minute here. Let me jump in here. There's this picture that has been trending that has you, Babatunde Raji Fashola, the Minister for Works and Housing, and of course the Vice President Asiwaju, and quite a number of people in that picture, and even the Oniru of Iru Kingdom. And people said something about that it's owing to Bola Tinubu's foresight in headhunting. But for some others, don't you think that was just a mere fluke of bringing men together and everyone had gone on to become success?
My dear brother, it can never be a fluke. Let me tell you one thing. Only the deep can call to the deep. That's a truism. Nobody can controvert that. You cannot give what you don't have. You cannot attract brains, experts, technocrats, professionals if you are a dullard yourself, if you are dim-witted, if you are a dunce, if you are bland, jaded, stale. You cannot attract the best. So the fact that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is able to attract, and is legendary, his head-hunting capacity is so legendary. Everybody, including his enemies, they acknowledge that. That means the man himself is not a pushover. And I did say this on a TV interview many years ago, when we were still in office, and an old man in Ibadan, it was a phony program, and said, we know you people are doing well in Lagos because Tinubu has a lot of professionals, a lot of experts around him, in his cabinet. And I told the man, I thanked him, and I said, sir, it only takes the deep to call to the deep. You have to give it to Bola Tinubu. He is able to identify talents, put them in round holes, round pegs in round holes. And don't forget, it is not just identifying those talents. It is not just putting those talents in their right compartments, where their efficiency will be maximized, will be a comparative edge. He is also able to manage them, because management of human beings is the most difficult venture. You can manage machines, because at the push of a button, the machine will respond to the way.
And let me also bring in this. For us here, Africa is watching, and for us here on News Center, it's a Pan-African station, and Africans like yourself are asking questions. Why would Bola Tinubu, who is noted to be a proud African, be having meetings and strategic meetings outside the continent, specifically in Europe?
Again, I have heard that being said, that I think it speaks to those who condemn such a move. Within their rights, it is their views. But when you are in a political, competitive environment, the objective is to win the election. Now, this competitive environment, or the issue, politics, is a game of numbers. Election is a game of numbers. So there will be alignments, realignments, caucuses, interests, various hues and tendencies to negotiate with in order to swell your ranks and your votes. So if in the course of ensuring that you attract and you negotiate with as many groups or tendencies as possible to swell your ranks and to increase your votes, one or two or three of such groups now decide to go and hold their meetings outside the country, would you now say because they are not holding it within your country, you won't go there? Because you know that you are looking for numbers. It's a game of numbers.
And talking about numbers, apologies buttoning. I'm trying to see how much we can take before the end of the show. Yeah. Talking about numbers, yes, on Wike, love him or hate him, and it looks like he's the new bride everybody wants on his side. What can you tell us from the Bola Tinubu camp? And is the camp making some kind of overture to the camp of Nyesom Wike?
Of course, they met. So, that's a moot point. They already met anyway. So that meant there was some kind of rapprochement ongoing there. And it's not also limited to Nyesom Wike. Like I told you, this is a game of numbers. So Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his ticket must be looking for others to increase the numbers. So talks are going on. Alignments and realignment negotiations are going on. And this will go on necessarily until the day of the election. That is the nature of politics. That is the nature of electioneering. Anyway,
and is your organization also making that move within the APC? Keep in mind, since after the primaries, there are notable names that haven't actually started to openly speak, even though we know the campaigns haven't officially started.
For instance, have mentioned it. The campaign hasn't started, so they don't want to jump the gun. And don't forget that my principal is a very experienced politician. He's a consummate one. He knows the ropes. He knows the regulations. And he's not in any way about to flout any INEC regulations. So let the others be going around and, flouting. But he won't be, because he's the man to beat. So he has to be the most careful of them all, because everyone is looking for anything at all, any straw to claw on with which to denigrate him. So he's got to be very careful. And that's what
and you're not new in this role. I recall in 2015, your role at that time with the Buhari campaign organization is similar to what it is now. What does this mean to you?
Well, at the time, don't forget that we were just coming up with this alliance, between the ACN, CPC, ANPP, faction of PDP, and all of that. And so there was a need to actually market the emergent political party and its candidate. So it was in a professional capacity, which I was appointed one of the PR people, as it were, at that time. And we performed the job at the time. And don't also forget that the country was also very much on edge anyway, and like on tenterhooks. Everybody was almost, was wishing for a change, as it were. Not just us, nearly everybody in the country. So now, that was it. Now, for me here, performing this role, for Tinubu, it is not new to me, because I've done this for Tinubu since 1999 anyway. So like a friend of mine told me a few days ago, he said, he read that I've taken over my new old role. That was the way he put it. New old role.
New old. That's a new one. I like that. New old role.
Yeah.
But again, he's not wrong, because I recall then you were among the very few who served 2 terms with Bola Tinubu. You served as commissioner under Tinubu for 8 years. You may as well be the best man to talk about him today, and that's why Nigerians and Africans are watching. Do you think it's the right time for Tinubu to vie for the presidency?
I think it's the best time, really. Not just the right time, but the best time. Because the way the country is today, We don't need any experimentation going forward. We need someone who has his hands on the plow and never looks back. Someone with the right amount of vision, with the right amount of courage, and with the right scope of knowledge to move Nigeria forward. All the other contenders, like I always say, whether you look at party or not party, you have to look at the driver. The driver, or who is going to be the driver, is the most important. And you have to put their qualities on the table. And what are the qualities? Because none of them has been president before. Then you have to fall back on their track records of performance when they were in office or when they had opportunities to be in public office. And when you put all these qualities on the table, there is no gainsaying the fact that Tinubu stands head and shoulders above any one of them.
You know, speaking of which, you trended recently, and it has to be with on comments you made about another candidate, Peter Obi. You were talking about, you were looking at the time both candidates spent in office as governor. The camp of Peter Obi, they weren't too excited about what you said. Are you taking that back, or you want to
which particular one?
Reiterate.
Because I said so many things.
You said so many things, and they weren't happy with you. And I'm talking about those so many things. Okay, among the things you said, is there any you want to take back?
Not at all, because everything I said is the truth. I speak with conviction. I'm not a propagandist. I'm a publicist, because there's a wide difference between propaganda and publicity. Publicity is anchored on action, on verifiable facts, on empiricism. Now, propaganda can be vacuous. It can be amorphous, nebulous. Actually, neither here nor there. So whatever I say about Tinubu is anchored on empiricism, empirical verification, verifiable. So I cannot take anything back about Obi. Okay, is Obi? I said Obi says he wants to move Nigeria from consumption to production. And I said that is not true. He cannot do it because his own business survives on consumption. Is that a lie? He has been an importer. He deals with, and I said he deals with cash and carry economics, because container economics. He imports all the goods that can be produced in Nigeria. Obi imports them in his supermarkets. That's consumption economics. That kind of a person cannot tell you he's moving you from consumption to production. He will then be committing self-economic suicide. And he won't do that to himself. So he's deceiving everybody. I can't take that back, because that is true. And you can't compare that. What I said about Asiwaju, I demonstrated the examples. I gave examples of his vision. I gave examples of his knowledge. I gave examples of his courage. There is none. You can't point to any enduring legacy of Obi in his 8 years of Anambra. You can point to several legacies. In fact, the NBA, where I was told where they held their conference, where they were rushing for bags and stuff like that, was at Eco Atlantic. That's one of the eloquent testimonies of Asiwaju Tinubu's enduring legacy.
And tell us, because we're almost out of time, tell us, if you will, what are Tinubu's plans for Nigeria, especially in the areas of security and the economy you just spoke about?
Let me take economy, for instance. Tinubu is a financial wizard. And I'm not saying that with any flippancy. I say it with all authority at my disposal. I say it with somebody who has experienced this wizardry in action. And I will go back to the fact that, an example, raising the revenue of Lagos from 600 million naira a month to what it is today, over 50 billion, because he put in an enduring mechanism in place. The other day, I had one of the spokespersons of one of the candidates, I think Atiku, one of the spokespersons, laboring in pain to denigrate this fact of raising revenue of Lagos State. He said, oh, Tinubu did not add a copper to the revenue. He only collected taxes because the previous government didn't have the infrastructure of collecting taxes. And I say, of crying out loud, they say, my candidate and your candidate wrote exams. Your candidate failed. My candidate passed. And then you now cried and said, it's because my candidate read before the exams. You said he collected taxes. He brought in the infrastructure with which to collect the taxes. Why did previous governments or governors not bring the same infrastructure to collect those taxes before he came? Why did he take him to bring the initiative? So you can see the puerile effort of such people. Now, he raised the IGR to what it is today. From a mere 600 million, today Lagos is one of the largest, one of, some people say it's the 5th largest economy in Africa. Now imagine if you were to give the economy of Nigeria to such a person. He will create wealth. The wealth creation will lead to manufacturing, to a job creation for our teeming masses of the youth to be employed. And life will be more abundant for everybody. And you know the spin-off effect of wealth creation, because everything, if you want to build roads, you must have money. You want to build schools, health, anything you want to do in terms of service delivery by government is anchored on money. And here is a man who has demonstrated the capacity to create wealth.
Let's see if we can touch security. If we can touch security quickly for a minute, please.
At another forum, when this question was asked, Tinubu has also demonstrated it before. Now, what he intends to do is, and I said one, today Nigeria is like over 200 million in population. Our present strength of the military and police and all the security arms, the strength is grossly inadequate. It's abysmally low. And that was why he said at a forum maybe a year ago that people, ignorant people started saying, he said we should employ 50 million youths into the police. He meant 50,000 at that time. But that's the way to go. You must increase the strength of the security such that today, all our security agencies are stretched thin, too thinly, to be able to combat.
I'm really afraid I'm out of time. It's an exciting moment. I do hope we'll have this time again. And
you should bring me back and extend it to 2 hours.
No, once you're back in Nigeria, we're going to have a sit down, because every candidate will have their say, and we'll let the people also have a conversation with them. And whatever you're doing, I'll say keep it.
I'm back. So good. Anytime, call me.
Awesome. Well, I'd like to thank you, Dele, Alake, for being such nice company on the show. Many thanks for being here.
Thank you very much for having me.
And thanks for watching VSA. I'm Sulaiman. We'll be back again. Bye-bye.